The third and sadly not final Republican debate is happening in Miami. 5 non-viable candidates will assemble on stage for no good reason at all. None of them will be president. Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, and Ron DeSantis. What a line. It's like if all the Avengers were Hawkeye.
The propaganda apparatus of the left. Extraordinary. It's infecting everything across our culture, across our society. It's the left. It's the Democratic Party. Remember, the Democratic Party isn't. I think I mentioned that we have had a house guest for the last week. My best girl's mother, no longer with us, was off the boat from Ireland, as we like to say. And Mom's brother, also off the boat from Ireland, as you might expect, now lives in Canada. Came down and visited us, stayed with us for a week. And great guy, Irish as the day is long. Just great. I don't want to stereotype, but he's a very stereotypical Irishman. Storyteller, funny, joke teller, musician, writes his own songs. Great guy, makes friends everywhere he goes, strikes up conversations. Not shy about having a beer. Great visit. And we were walking and talking, and we were talking a little bit about politics, and his politics are kind of all over the place, and not necessarily like mine, but that's fine. You know, he's a fun guy and family, and like him. And we started talking about it, and I explained, at the Pentagon, friendly fire isn't. They have a saying that friendly fire isn't, and then started talking about how common sense isn't. And it all started because some people were being discourteous when we were out hiking. And I said, and common courtesy isn't, certainly in Washington, D.C. And I said, I apologize for the discourteous people, but it's fairly typical of, because so many liberals self-described around here, that they're necessarily rude at all times. So common courtesy isn't, and common sense isn't. And then I explained the Democratic Party isn't. And boy, the Democratic Party isn't. But they are spreading this toxic anti-Semitism everywhere, and it's not just college campuses either. My friend Brian has a son in school in Fairfax County, Virginia. Hayfield, it's called Hayfield. It probably used to be a hayfield, and then they built a school there. It's called Hayfield Secondary School, and there's a middle school and a high school students at the place. But this morning, yesterday was election day. Democrats are feeling empowered. So if you're Jewish, you should be aware. Be aware. But the principal of the school of Hayfield sent out an email to the parents. Dr. Thompson. He doesn't even use his first name, and he's probably not a medical doctor. He signs it Dr. Thompson. He's the principal. And he wrote, "Dear Hawk families, today, about 785 of our students walked out of door 13 at 9:43 a.m. Really, 785 of them, approximately, walked out of a doorway in 1 minute. That's pretty quick. Students left the building in an orderly fashion and were outside for about 45 minutes before returning to class. Fairfax County Public Schools respects the rights of our students to engage in peaceful protests and express their opinions through speech and other ways, as long as it's done respectfully, does not interfere with the rights of others, and does not disrupt learning at the school." Well, everybody walked out. It obviously disrupted learning at the school. That's a walkout. Smart boy. Hayfield Secondary School is committed to providing an environment where everyone is treated with respect and encouraged to help others. Our teachers, administrators, and staff continue to reinforce a sense of positive school community, and we ask for your partnership. They want a date in working with your child to discuss meaningful actions that they can take to engage in their community. Now, that's a very vague thing. Here's the deal. It was the pro-Hamas, anti-Israel walkout. That's what it was. It was in support of Hamas killing the Jews. And that's what the walkout was about. Now, he calls himself Dr. Thompson. No stethoscope, from what I can see. 785 students walked out for 45 minutes, and he doesn't mention what it was about. Now, if it was, pro-life or something, then it'd probably be an issue. But walkout in support of Hamas, in support of what they like to call the Palestinians, not an actual ethnic group. And Palestine, not an actual place, used to be a League of Nations British protectorate long ago, but never mind that. So a high school, middle school in Fairfax, Virginia, 785 students. Does that mean there are other students that stayed inside? Because that's not made clear, Dr. Thompson. Yeah, and the note, you may have noticed that the note doesn't say what the walkout was over. It doesn't say the students at our school walked out to support radical Islamic jihadi terrorists who are dedicated to the total destruction of the state of Israel. That wasn't mentioned. You know why? Democrats. That's why. Democrats. Yes. I live in a building, my best girl and I, we live in a building in Washington, D.C. We have a building manager. My building manager and I were talking the other day outside of the building, and something crazy happened in front of us. Something crazy happened. It's in the city of Washington and everything. Something crazy happened in front of us. And my building manager turned to me and just said, Democrats. And he laughed because he knew, I'm telling you. Pull your kids out of public schools. Send them to Catholic schools. School them at home. Get them away from these radicals. And by the way, the Democrats swept the school boards in Virginia yesterday. Even though they're supposed to be nonpartisan positions, but the Democrat-backed school board radicals who want to sever your child's genitalia and put it in a mayonnaise jar. They swept. Big sweep for the transgender kindergarten crowd because, Democrats. That's their thing. They're pretty crazy people, I've got to say. A lot of crazy. Kamala Harris has somebody that tweets for her. And Kamala Harris tweeted a picture of herself smiling, actually kind of cackling. Democrats just won Virginia. It's a video, actually. Oh, I didn't even know there was a video associated. I just saw the X post. But Kamala came out to take a victory lap and say, now we're going to crush them in 2024. Today, Democrats won in Virginia and protected reproductive freedom and the right to harvest the organs of 400 out of every 1,000 black pregnancies. Just harvest the organs. 400 out of every 1,000. They're very excited. All right, Democrats sure are cutting down on the black population, the party of Jefferson Davis and Jim Crow. She continues, but make no mistake, they love their colons, abortion and so many other fundamental freedoms are going to be on the ballot in 2024. That's why we need you to join our campaign. You see, this reminds me of the radical left-wing DNC chair and former governor and presidential candidate Howard Dean. Remember Howard Dean, the DNC chair? Now, we are ours. Some places they're still counting votes. And the Democrats are already rallying crazy Democrats who will burn police stations and sever the genitalia off of children to next year's camp because it's the permanent campaign. And the DNC chair, former Democrat governor, former Democrat presidential candidate, Howard Dean, he was bragging, but I took it as a warning.
Remember I talked about the permanent campaign? Well, before I got to the DNC, we didn't have a permanent campaign. You would campaign for 1 year when you had a candidate, and then if you didn't win, you wouldn't campaign for the next 3 years. No wonder we lose. Now we don't just have a permanent campaign for electing Democrats. we have a permanent campaign for influencing policy. It brings us a little closer to the European model.
It brings us a little closer to the European model. It's the minute political appendage syndrome that they think anything European is better than anything American, when obviously the opposite is true in virtually every instance. They might do better with cheese in France, for example, but then again, maybe not. But the permanent campaign, Howard Dean, Michael and I grabbed that at the time because we knew that would be important going forward. The permanent campaign. And here's Kamala today, the blood's not even dry, as usual, and she's railing on about jumping back in because we must start campaigning for next year. Today, they'll do that by attacking kosher delis and burning police cars and looting drugstores and, the usual stuff that they do.
Democrats just won in Virginia, and here's what that means.
What does that mean?
Across the country, voters are rejecting extremist plans to ban abortion.
Extremists.
It proves that not only
at
is
15
it bad
weeks.
Policy, it is bad politics. While Democrats won and protected reproductive freedom, we still have a lot of work
4
to do
months.
because extremist leaders
Almost.
still want a national abortion ban. So that's why we need you, and we need you to be involved in our campaign.
They got
Together,
music, too.
Let's make sure voters around the country know what's at stake next year.
They have any child actors in there that they brought in from California after auditions? That's pretty amazing stuff. That's your Democrat Party. By the way, yesterday a Democrat was arrested very close to the U.S. Capitol with an AR-15 rifle, according to the U.S. Capitol Police. And the man arrested, an African-American man, looks like a lunatic, wearing what appears to be an orange jumpsuit. Arrested man armed with AR-15 near Capitol. The tweets came out initially, and reports of men with a gun and AR-15 outside the U.S. Capitol. Capitol Police blocking people from leaving through the Senate. Man with gun in custody. And he looks like a mentally ill, crazed person. He's African-American. It looks like he's wearing an orange jumpsuit. He's skinny. He's probably in his 30s. AR-15 rifle. Not a problem, not a big deal, because he wasn't wearing a MAGA hat. And once the man was identified and all that, what do you have, audio on that? Then surprising me with stuff. So the man arrested outside the Capitol. They arrested a guy. Well, I told the story yesterday, right, about 2 Democrats caught with Glocks. One converted so it could go fully automatic with a 22-round magazine. And they were Democrats, so it's not really a big story. No MAGA hat still. And the lunatic in the orange jumpsuit with the AR-15 and leaves in his hair was taken away, strapped to a gurney, a stretcher, in an ambulance because he was apparently not entirely mentally well, as is the case with a great many Democrats. Just extraordinary stuff. Extraordinary, I'm telling you. And LGBTQIAAI has got a new add-on. Got a new add-on for that, and I want to get to that story as well, because the crazy people, they are crazy. What is it with them and gender? Honestly. Also, I love the New York Magazine story, a picture of Joe Biden yelling and waving his hand around like the lunatic that he is. Biden needs to go very negative on Trump, or he'll probably lose in 2024. But I mean, all these trials and prosecutions, that's not going negative? The evil, sinister, extremist thing, they haven't gone negative yet? That's pretty crazy. If this is not going negative, I think the planet Earth doesn't want to see the left going negative. Extraordinary. Yeah, they've added a letter to LGBT, and it's not H, for Hamas, which is kind of fun. But we're adding another I. This is a good one. In British Columbia, that's in Canada. They're mad. And renaming the press gallery in the House of Representatives for a great African-American, Byron Donalds. has proposed a name change inside the Capitol. That's coming up. Hey, it's Chris Plant. Excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Now, they have liberals in Canada. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's America's Hat, our largest national park. Canadian province of British Columbia and the university there, they've added a second I to, listen to this now, the number 2, 2S LGBTQAII plus, which I am told signifies indigiqueer. So you're an indigenous person who's queer, which used to be a slur, a portmanteau for indigenous queer. This is getting ridiculous. Chris Rufo is great. And it turns out 2S is two-spirit, which means you're mentally ill, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, allied, intersex, indigiqueer, right? And the unlearning and undoing of white supremacy project began 2 years ago. This is kind of an amazing thing. And remarkably, at the university, they have universities in Canada now. Did you know that? The two-spirit LGBTQAII plus terminology glossary, it turns out that at the University of British Columbia, you can major in two-spirit and indigiqueer studies. Two-spirit and indigiqueer studies. So if you meet anybody that attended the University of the British Columbia, you might want to ask them what their major was, because their major might be two-spirit and indigiqueer studies, in which case you would spend your career doing peyote and being sodomized, I assume. It's the peyote sodomy thing, right? Am I right about that? I think that's... What are you qualified to do? Well, check this out. Oh, I see. You must have been an indigiqueer studies major. And that's a pretty good demonstration there. You get credits for that at the University of British Columbia. They have classes in that. That means they have teachers, professors, highly educated people. Yes, sir. That's it. It's 2SLGBTQAII plus. It's not easy to keep up. There's a lot of mental illness out there. In the United States, we call this the Democratic Party. In Canada, I don't know, indigiqueer studies. Could be fascinating, huh?
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
My favorite part of Hillary Clinton being an election denier is that the Democrat crowd goes wild and they applaud like the Beatles are playing, because she said that the election was stolen from her. You know, probably because of racism or something like that. They're quite mad. Quite mad, these people. Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton, who is an election denier, said that she had the election of 2016 stolen from her. They want to tear down the Electoral College because it's too fair. They don't believe in fairness. The Electoral College levels the playing field in the United States of America. It serves to level the playing field to a greater extent than if we did not have the Electoral College. And that's why they're against it. And they keep losing the Electoral College. And Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote against President Trump, but she lost the Electoral College and therefore lost the election. So since they're such fundamentally crooked people, they just want to do away with anything that hasn't served them well in the past, because it's all about greed and power and riches. because that's who they are. Now, Hillary Diane was on the ABC television show today, The View, where they have that glot of lunatic women, all of whom are mental dwarves. Can you say mental dwarves? Do you have to say mental little people? They're mental little people. And they've got that Joy Behar. She's a sharp one, isn't she? And Joy Behar was saying today to Hillary, I still think you won. Because Joy Behar, ABC News, multi-million-dollar talent, is an election denier. Like Hillary Clinton is an election denier, like the former Democrat governor of Virginia is an election denier, former head of the DNC election denier, Terry McAuliffe, and Stacey Abrams, Democrat. Georgia still thinks she's the governor, and she keeps ringing a bell, expecting people to come bring her lunch and things because she thinks she lives in the governor's mansion. Democrats have denied every presidential election of the 21st century that they've lost. They accept the ones that they've won without question, but if they lose, they have contested every presidential election since the year 2000 that the Democrats have lost. Keep that in mind. On The View today with Joyless Behar and Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton sitting there with her. She had to get out of the house because it's hump day. And everybody knows on hump day, she's got to get out of the house because Bill has some plans.
By the way, Mrs. Clinton did win the popular vote. Yeah, yeah. I continue to believe that you won. I don't care what they say.
I don't care what they say. I continue to believe that you won. I don't care what they say. Hillary was shriveled up, and I know I won. It was stolen from me. I'm an election denier, and Joy Behar is an election denier. Well, you won the popular vote. Well, that's not how you win the presidency. Stupid.
I have to correct something.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want the impression to be made that I didn't accept the results of the Trump administration.
After the break.
But I don't like the Electoral College. Yeah. And you won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College.
Yeah. Listen.
And that's the thing that needs to be addressed. Because it's not one person, one vote.
It's based on slavery.
Yeah, and I think
it's based on slavery.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that.
Yeah, I know.
I certainly agree with that. Oh, it was stolen from me. We're so rich, we don't care. Amazing. The Heritage Foundation, debunking myths and misinformation. Pretty extraordinary Democrat Party stuff. False claim. The Electoral College was designed to protect slavery. And the Heritage Foundation goes on at some length explaining that that's completely false, of course. But that doesn't matter because the Democrats. Some have made the false historical claim that the Electoral College was enacted to protect slavery. As which one was that idiot viewster that was just saying that? Sonny Hostin. Yeah. Critics charge that because 3/5 of the slave population was included in the representation tabulation, because Democrats insisted upon it, by the way, it supposedly gave Southern states a political advantage with more Electoral College votes. I don't know if they're aware, but the Republicans ended slavery way back in the 1860s, but never mind that. Significantly, though, when the proposal for the Electoral College was voted on during the Constitutional Convention, northern states with lower slave populations unanimously voted for the proposal, yet with the exception of Virginia, the southern states with higher populations of slaves voted against it. Moreover, when the Constitution was drafted, it goes on and on. Slavery was practiced in every state. These people, they spread idiocy because they're idiots with microphones. So they spread idiocy. That's what they do. Womp, womp, womp. Yes, yes. We have not gone to a telephone call in a long time, and because there's so much crazy to talk about with the Democrats being on the loose. So let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Tom, calling from Tampa, Florida. Tom, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Chris.
Hey, Tom.
Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, sure.
I just wanted to say I think I figured out how these abortion amendments pass.
Uh-huh.
And we need to change our language. For example, the name of the amendment was Ohioans United for Reproductive Rights. Well, who wouldn't be in favor of that?
Right.
That sounds wonderful.
It does.
And women's health care and reproductive health care. But really what we're talking about is not abortion. We're talking about killing a baby before birth.
Yeah.
So we need to start pushing that narrative. What you are doing is killing a baby before birth if you are having an abortion. And if you said to somebody in an amendment, would you be in favor of killing a baby before birth? They'd say, well, no. You'd have maybe. Well, you'd have 20% of the left would still say yes. But most people would say, no, I'm not in favor of killing a baby before birth. But are you in favor of reproductive rights? Well, yes, of course. I'm in favor of reproductive rights. So we need to change our language because we're going to lose every single time. They have figured out the narrative to make people think, well, this seems like a really good thing.
No, you're 100% right. The manipulation of the lexicon is something at which the Democrat Party is masterful. I've always pointed out that the opposite of pro-life, now they will call you anti-abortion, and I would call them anti-life and pro-death. I would define them as the pro-death party, the anti-life party. And the organ harvesting party, of course, which is an important part of all of this. And for them, you got to understand, Tom, for them, there is no moral consideration for them because they are amoral in their politics. They are completely without morals in their politics. Their morals are about power, about winning. And human life is not important to the left at all. Again, the left has murdered more than 100 million people since the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 in what was then Russia. And they kill in the name of the glories of socialism and spreading socialist perfection. And they've had to murder tens and tens and tens of millions of people in order to achieve that. And, we got, 63 million abortions, I believe, since Roe versus Wade, 1973, 63 million, which has reduced the population of the United States by more than 100 million people and has slashed the black population by at least 40% and probably a lot more than 40%. And I don't know if you've heard this, Tom, but I've had conversations with liberals about this in the past, and they say, well, that's how we cut down on the crime rate. I've literally had more than once. You exterminate 40% of the black population, and I confront them with that unpleasant fact. And they say, well, we're cutting down on the crime rate. I'm like, okay, well, you're a good Democrat, right? It's not a moral issue for them, but you're right about the semantics, Tom. You're right about the manipulation of language. And the Democrats have always been very effective at manipulating the language and the use of words and terms, and they bumper stickerize things very, very effectively. The Republican Party, on the other hand, for 100 years has been incredibly ineffective at combating this manipulation of language and the use of words, and they've been very inept at retaliating by coming up with their own great phrases. And you're ahead of the Republican Party, and they've had a century to, like a friend of mine who's a good Catholic, Tim. He says, come up with, let my people grow. Let my people grow. Mm-hmm. That might make you think a little bit if you see let my people grow, a pro-life message. Right. And also calling them, you don't allow them, they say they're pro-choice and you're anti-choice. Anti is bad, pro is good. No, we're pro-life, pro-human, pro-baby, pro-decency, and you're anti-life, anti-child, anti-baby. And then when they're born, a child is born, usually into a single-parent household in so many cases, because the Democrat Party is anti-family. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. See, that's another bumper sticker that the left came up with, and still readily available decades later. But the Republicans are terrible at defining and framing the issues in ways that are advantageous to them. And you're right, reproductive health. For who? Right?
Right, not the baby.
Not the helpless little child. And again, Governor Glenn Youngkin in Virginia is talking about a 15-week abortion limit. You have a window of 15 weeks. Now that's almost 4 months. And if you haven't made the decision, and also in Virginia, they were talking about with exceptions for the life of the mother and for, obviously rape and incest, you'd know by the 15th week. So don't be silly. I just discovered that I was raped by my uncle 17 weeks ago. And it just occurred to me now. Democrat families, says you stay away from them during the holidays because it gets weird. But you're right. Redefining the terms of the debate is something the left is great at and Republicans are terrible at, Tom.
Yes, you're correct, Chris. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Thank you, Tom. Tampa, Florida. Yeah, let my people grow. That's kind of fun. The pandas, the Chinese communist pandas, are headed back to China. So they're going to leave their enclosures at the National Zoo, and they'll be enslaved in China. You think they're going to force them to make gym shoes or something? They're going to be slaves. They're going to lose their freedom. Sure, they've been in an enclosure at the National Zoo in Washington, but the commies are taking their dirty, lazy, do-nothing, poo-covered pandas back, and I'm not really very upset about it because, they make cuter stuffed animals than they do actual zoo animals because they don't do anything. They laid there for 40 years, and now they're going back to communist China. And people are taking it and it is, a political statement by the communists. And the communists are planning on taking over the world in the 21st century. The Democrat Party is here to help them. And they're going to take Taiwan one of these days, one way or the other. And now their pandas are going. And I've got to say, I don't really care. I'm really not terribly upset about that. I like the red pandas better. And the commies can take their dirty stinging. They have they're lazy bears. They're not even bears, and they're uninteresting. They look kind of cute in pictures, but go look at them and they just sit there and do nothing for 40 years. Man, I'm telling you, your Democrat Party. All right, let's get to, we've got more crazy. Where is this? The Democrat Party is about two things, pro-jihad and winning elections. So they get powder. It's good versus evil. And the Republican Party needs to do politics better. But the Democrats need to be better human beings, and that is not going to happen because they're the left. There was kind of an amusing moment at the White House yesterday, and I was surprised by, oh gosh, look at the clock. Look what I've done to the clock again. By NBC News' Peter Alexander, who is a Democrat Party bootlick. But yesterday he put a question, number 15. Yesterday he put a question to Cringe Jean-Pierre, asking her, spokesmodel Raggedy Ann for the President of the United States. Hey, all these Democrats are tearing down posters of hostages that are being held by a radical Islamic terrorist group named Hamas. And Democrats are tearing down the posters in New York and Los Angeles and on college campuses. Is that free speech?
Is the White House's view that these actions should be condemned, the pulling down of them, or that that's a form of peaceful protest?
The pulling down of them.
I've sort of kind of seen the reporting here and there. I think it was from last week.
She doesn't follow the news.
30 million videos have gone around.
No, I know, I hear you.
30 million videos, he says, have gone around.
I'm not going.
Is that peaceful protest to pull that down, or should you not be doing
I'm just not going to go into specifics on that particular thing.
Yes, tear them down. The Jews must die. Those were the subtitles on the thing. Just amazing. And she couldn't answer the question. She and Peter Alexander, to his credit, asked again and again, and she refused to answer whether that's peaceful protest and whether that's okay with the the President of the United States that Democrats are going around tearing down the pictures of the Jewish hostages, the Israeli hostages that are being held in tunnels by these rats, these troglodytes. Well, I'm not really going to I couldn't. Far be it from me to judge whether, is that First Amendment protected First Amendment speech? Is that peaceful protest? I can't answer. Why would I say anything about that? And you hear the Democrats, pro-genocide Democrats in New York, they've got a new nickname for Joe Biden. This one might stick. I've got that coming up. Now, in New York City, a bunch of leftists who support jihad against Israel gathered, and they have a new chant for Joe Biden, the president that they all voted for.
Genocide Joe has got to go! Genocide Joe has got to go! Genocide Joe has got to go!
Genocide Joe has got to go. He's Genocide Joe. He's got to go. And that's because he's allowing the Jews to defend themselves. So he's Genocide Joe. The crowd is genocidal. They're genocidal racists, anti-Semites. And then they're chanting about Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, who's a Democrat also.
Eric Adams, you can't hide! Eric Adams, you can't hide! You support genocide! You support genocide! Eric Adams, you can't hide! Eric Adams, you can't hide! You support genocide! You support genocide!
Obama's given them the nod. Democrats support jihad.
Democrats support jihad.
He's chanting in return. Also, I've got an update on the Democrat that was arrested at the Capitol yesterday with an AR-15 rifle with an oversized magazine and looks like a real ghetto gun, this AR-15. And it turns out that the man they arrested, Amir Lavon Merrill, 21 years old. He was walking down the sidewalk across the street from Union Station with his gun, and it's, looks like a weapon of war. The local station in Atlanta, Georgia, where he's from, revealed that court documents obtained by Channel 2 Action News show that Merrill was first arrested in March of 2019 in Fulton County on sex crime charges, plural, including child molestation. Child molester, multiple sex charges and child molestation, but a plea deal. This is where they've charged Donald Trump with crimes. A plea deal dropped the charge to cruelty to children, required him to register as a sex offender until his 21st birthday, which was in January of this year.